We are Steve and Jill.
Together, we've been buying and reselling land since the 90s.
Our data-centric approach leaves our buyers asking, how can you sell it so cheap?
Here on the Land Academy Show,
We answer that and more. I'm Steve and Jack Butala.
And I'm Jill DeWit, and this is the Land Academy Show.
This week, all week, Jill and I are talking about the 8 A's and how to make your due diligence, the portion of your due diligence responsibility in your land company easier and work for you, hopefully in a real positive way to help you make real good acquisition decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Today specifically, we're talking about the second and third A, which is access and adjacent. Yesterday, we talked about the first A, which was affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Jill, before we do that, though, let's take a question. Each day we take on the show, we take a question. We answer a question from our Land Academy member Discord forum and take a deep dive into a land-related topic by your request.
Okay. Elaine wrote, how frequently do you use the mail forwarding service? When it comes to closing, is it necessary to forward the original signed purchase agreement from the mailbox, the seller's mailbox, to the title company or myself, or would scanning and storing it in the cloud suffice? I'm in the process of selecting a mailbox provider, but I've noticed that some companies charge more for forwarding mail while offering unlimited scanning, whereas others have lower forwarding fees but limit the amount of scanning. If we anticipate needing to forward the original purchase agreement frequently, it might be more practical to opt for the service with the lower forwarding costs. I'm 100% about scanning and no paper. It was weird at first when you taught me this, Jack. Like, you don't need to keep these deeds. You feel like you need to have a physical piece of paper, like a pink slip. You know what it is? Because it's like a car and a pink slip. You do need a physical piece of paper. How weird is this? But when it comes to a property and land, you don't need that original piece of paper. Isn't that the craziest thing? You could have nothing. You could have a photocopy 3 times ago, that the seller found that has coffee stains all over it. Seriously. And then they scan it for you to transfer the property. And then you use that information, right, to make a brand new deed with wet signatures and all that to buy the property and get that recorded. And that works. You don't need paper. I love scanning. I love emailing. You could even do a photocopy. I have had sellers take a picture from their cell phone, text it to me, and I make that a little attachment, send it to the escrow company, and that's good enough to open escrow. All the other documents, they'll get what they need, like a new deed with a wet signature and a notary, all that will come. So I would go with whatever the best priced one is with just the scanning service for you.
Elaine, I'm glad you asked this question, and I'm reading between the lines here. I think you want to get it right the first time. Caution everyone with this type of back process. I think that we live in a world where mistakes are unforgiving, which is really too bad. The business that Jill and I have now, it looks nothing like when I started 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It looks nothing like when Jill and I together started 15 years ago. And Land Academy itself looks nothing like when we started 10 years ago. So this isn't the first mailbox situation you're going to have. It's probably the first of maybe 10.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 15. And the same goes, there's about 6 or 7 or 8 things you need to do to start this business. And as compared to other businesses, it's just minuscule. One of them is get a mailbox, get a phone number that's not your cell phone. There's a few other things that you need to put together. That's kind of beyond the scope of this. But whatever mailbox scenario that you choose, it's going to change next year.
Yeah. Exactly.
It might be because Wisconsin ends up being a massive profit center for you, so now you need one locally there. There's all kinds of things that change, so I wouldn't sweat these. If you ever really talk to an extremely successful startup entrepreneur, they're going to say things like, if you say, hey, you're super successful, what mailbox scenario did you use? They're going to say, what are you talking about? I don't know. I just picked the first one, and I don't know. It works for us. Is it cheaper? I don't know how much it costs, because they're really focusing on buying property that's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not picking on. It's a really good question, and then I think it's super helpful to everybody who's listening. Just don't sweat the small stuff.
I'm sure a lot of people chiped in on here. Use this one, use that one. It's great. So that's perfect.
It's like I like to talk out of both sides of my mouth once in a while. Don't sweat the small stuff. The devil's in the details. Which one is for you?
So easy for me. I love it. I love it when he has different opinions that are wildly varied. And
Two awful
it just
back,
makes it so much fun for me.
awful back-to-back cliches.
It's like, where do you want to go for dinner? This? Nope. I don't care. You pick. How about this? No.
That happens.
It does
It's not a
happen.
one-way street.
Exactly.
Today's topic, we're talking about access and adjacent as two of the 8 A's in your due diligence program.
Okay, so let's talk about access. There's two types of access, physical and legal. What's the difference? Well, physical is there a road there, even as rough as it is? Can I get there? Do I need four-wheel drive? Can my Subaru get there? Can my little whatever it is, Miata get there? I don't know.
Miata.
I'm just making up cars. I'm
When's the last time you saw
I'm,
Miata?
you know, it's funny. I just happen to pick cars I will never own.
What's wrong with Miatas?
I will never own a Miata. So it's just,
Yes, if that's your access test,
wait,
you can get there in a Miata.
wait.
Then you're going to be buying a lot of info lots in
Can my
Dallas.
Carmen Gia get there, or do I need my Jeep? Now that's real. I'll do that. But access, this is funny too, and access can be too, where can your broker get out there with the brush not so thick that it scrapes the side of their car and they're not calling, yelling at you?
True story.
I'm like, well, then why did you drive there? You should have just stopped. Anyway.
I don't need to make up stories and falsities.
Oh, we have
about
enough.
Real estate agents. They do
Stories.
it themselves.
Yeah. So
Scratching my car. I remember that phone call.
Yep.
She called you and said, I'm not looking at this property. It's scratching my car.
Yep. So that's now we got the, physical access. And then another part of physical access is not just, is there a road, the condition of the road, what you need to get there, but also, is there a gate? That's something to think about. Not that it's legal, but is there a gate there? Is it locked? Kind of thing. In a perfect world, I'm just going to talk about access for a minute here, the physical. In a perfect world, people can drive out there. I don't care if it's a dirt or gravel. That's totally fine. I would like to be able to take out any normal vehicle, even if they just go slow.
Even a Miata.
They can get even a Miata. They can go slow and get out there and be able to stand and see the property without any worries, kind of thing. That is the ideal access. Now, depending on what the property is, that's a whole nother part of it, is physical access for someone that's going to hunt, four-wheel drive, totally appropriate. Physical access for someone who's going to build their luxury home and they want to drive their RV up there and park it in the big RV garage they're going to build. Now we need to just be looking hopefully for some paved access or the possibility of paved access that it can happen. So these are all things you need to think about with access. That's physical. Now, legal access is there really a road there? Is there an easement? Is it recorded, right? Is there real legal on paper, on a plat map, attached to a deed, access? That's another
Just skip
piece.
kindergarten to the PhD here.
Oh, why?
It's just going to take a couple steps back.
Go right ahead.
You're moving through your list of A's. It's affordable. You have established that. It's buy for 30 and sell for 80. Check. I'm going to move on to access. Can I get to it? Can my buyer get to it? So I'm staring at ParcelFact and probably Google Earth, and there's a road to it. Do I check the box? Access? No. It's slightly more complicated, but not that complicated. 90% of the time, the road that's getting there, if it's not passing through somebody's living room, it's glaringly obvious, the property's got access, check. What you want in more rural property is subject to some of the things that Joe's bringing up. But 90% of the time, if you can see a road there, it's got access. Physical access so you can drive up to it, and then legal access, meaning it is on the plat map, and according to the county, there is an easement by way of state or local roads that have been established, or through someone else's property that's documented. That's a documented easement, either in your deed or the deed of the person that you're driving, the property that you're driving through. It's very small amount of deals are that way.
You know, a real good sign, check when you're looking like on Parcel Fact, you'll see Citus address. It won't have a number, but it'll show the street. It'll say Highway 280 in the city.
We don't want to
You're
complicate them here.
Like,
Complicate
ooh,
this a little bit.
that's a good little indication to help you along. Like, okay, I'm feeling better about access here.
The 5 to 8% of the deals that come in where you have to really dig and find out if it does have access. Then, and finally, on access, are a huge number of properties that come in that have no access. And it's very clear. You pull it up on Parcel Fact or you look at it on Google Earth or whatever you're using, and there's no clear roadway into the property. And most of the time that means the property does not have legal and or physical access. For us, and I'm going to keep talking about this entire week, acquisition criteria, that's where we stop. Congratulations, it was affordable, but I can't get to it. So there are many people that specialize in this. They can take, and these properties come back because the seller doesn't know what to do. Maybe they inherited it. So it's popular and common to get properties back in the mail when you send a bunch of mail out that are accessless. And we stop right there because we're not in the business of getting access to properties that don't have it. Some people are, and maybe you are. And if you are, you're probably sitting on the back of the yacht listening to this because it's a very, very viable, profitable way to make money in real estate.
You know, it's funny. I just talked to a guy that's going to do Career Path last week. He's a real estate attorney. This would be another good niche for him. I'm like, this is great. He's untangled all these things for other people. Now he can untangle them for himself. It's brilliant.
We could do a whole week on access. And Jill started down that path of doing an entire week.
I did. I'm happy to do that. I will entertain you.
What you need to know for this scope of this episode is, does it have access or not?
Right.
Nope. Then I don't want to buy it. Yep. I want to buy it.
There you go. Well, let's get to adjacent because we're talking about that today too. The thing about adjacent, that came along later, but I love that it's almost an attribute. Adjacent could be attribute too. When you look at 5-acre ranch, you have a 5-acre property and you see ranch, 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 your property, ranch, ranch,
You're in the ranches
town.
today.
I am. Duh. Sorry.
I'm going to take a couple steps back.
Oh, here we go.
Here's what you need to
He's
know
going to have
about
to.
adjacent.
See, whatever Jill says today, ignore that. Listen to me.
We're starting off with the PhD level Jill is today.
Sorry.
You're staring at Parcel Fact. The property came in, and you've established it has access and it's affordable. They meet your standards. Does it have what we call adjacent? Are there properties around it? That's the question. Are there properties that are being used in the way that you believe is the highest and best use for your target property? Is everything in the entire area vacant and unused? That, for us, does not, most of the time, pass the adjacent criteria. Well, I want to see other properties that are being used somehow. There's houses there, there's ranches there, there's a nuclear power plant that's next to this property. Do I want that? Does anybody want a property besides China that's adjacent to a nuclear power plant? So adjacent is very important, and it's something that Jill and I have looked at. I've looked at my entire career with Jill, and we don't like property that's where I have to explain the adjacent use.
Correct.
If it's a ranch type property that's being unused, surrounded by 19 other ranches, that's what it's going to be used as 99% of the time. If it's an infill lot surrounded in a subdivision where every other property is built with a 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, chances are. So that fits our acquisition criteria because now we've taken the mystery out of how this property is going to be used, and we know who, with a pretty serious degree of certainty, who to market it to and who's going to buy it and how fast it's going to sell, because the 3 other properties sold in 3 weeks at X price. So it takes the mystery out of it. Adjacent is really important for me.
I agree.
What were you saying?
Funny. I'll keep talking, but it's going to be PhD level.
I know.
Jeez.
Total role reversal.
I know it's that is true. It's usually you going that high, and I'm like, let me back up and tell you what he's talking about. So that's very, very true. I think we got it.
Tomorrow we talk about acreage, the fourth A.
Whew.
Hope
we all agree on that one.
You are not alone. Yeah, we're gonna let Jill talk tomorrow.
Exactly.
So put your helmet on.
Thanks.
You are not alone in your real estate ambition.
We are Jack and Jill.
Information
And inspiration
to buy undervalued property.
We hope you found our content valuable and we appreciate your support. If you have not already, please check out our channel and hit the subscribe button.
And your comments and suggestions help us to create the content you're here for. Hitting the like button helps to support our channel's algorithm and gauge your interest for future shows.